When I joined the U.S. Army, I left behind not just my family but also the land that had been in my family for generations, a 120-acre ranch in Texas. Before I left for deployment overseas, I made sure all my property taxes were paid, my will was in order, and the ranch was properly registered in my name. I trusted that when I returned home, things would be just as I left them, a peaceful, green, and full of memories. But what I came back to was nothing short of betrayal. After serving for nearly 4 years in the Middle East, I returned home to find strange houses dotting my property, paved streets, fences, even a signboard that read Cedar Hills Community A managed by Oak Valley Ho. At first, I thought I was lost. I double-checked the GPS coordinates, walked the perimeter and then I realized, with a sinking feeling, that this was my land. The land my grandfather had worked on, the barn my father built, and the creek where I learned to fish all gone. In their place stood an home-managed suburban development, complete with mailboxes, speed bumps, and a clubhouse. When I demanded to know what had happened, a woman from the Ho, the so-called President A, told me, "Sir, you must be mistaken. This property was legally sold 3 years ago by the Cedar Ridge Property Group. They developed it, and it's under Ho jurisdiction now." I showed her the deed. My name was still on it, but she smirked and said, "You might want to talk to the county clerk. We bought it fair and square." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my truck staring at what used to be my home, the same land my family had worked for over a century. I felt anger boiling inside me. I had been overseas defending the rights of others, and meanwhile, back home, my own rights had been trampled. So, I started digging. It turned out that while I was deployed, a shady developer filed forged paperwork claiming I had defaulted on taxes and abandoned the property. They used that false claim to purchase the ranch at a county auction, a sale that shouldn't have been legal in the first place. Then, the Ho was formed to manage the new housing development they built on top of my stolen land. When I contacted the local authorities, they shrugged it off. "Sir, these things happen," one county officer said. "If you've got a legal claim, take it to civil court." Civil court? After 4 years of service, after losing brothers in combat, I was being told to just sue for the land that was rightfully mine. So I did more than sue. I called my commanding officer and explained what had happened. Within a week, the Army's Legal Affairs Division got involved, and once they realized that an active duty soldier's property had been illegally seized while he was deployed, the case escalated fast. Under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, SCRA, it's illegal to foreclose, seize, or sell property belonging to a deployed service member without a court order, and no such order existed in my case. That meant every sale, every contract, every home built on my land was illegally constructed. The Ho didn't know what hit them. Army lawyers coordinated with the Department of Justice and the State Attorney General's office. Investigators dug through property records, bank transfers, and signatures. They discovered that the developer had bribed a county official to push through the sale and falsify tax delinquency records. That official was arrested within a week. Meanwhile, the residents, dozens of families who had bought homes there, began to panic. Letters started arriving, notifying them that their property titles were invalid. Some blamed the Ho, others blamed the developer. But one thing was certain: none of them actually owned the land. And as the investigation unfolded, the truth spread fast. Local news picked up the story. Greater than Army Sergeant returns from deployment to find his ranch turned into Ho subdivision. A Dodge launches federal probe. The public was furious. Veterans groups rallied behind me, demanding justice. I remember the day the court ruling came down. The judge reviewed all the evidence at the fraudulent paperwork, the illegal sale, the violation of federal law, and declared the entire development null and void. The Ho was dissolved. Every house on my land was ordered to be vacated within 90 days. But I didn't celebrate. I just sat there in silence, thinking about all the years lost, all the memories buried under concrete and pavement. Then, something unexpected happened. The Army stepped in again, under the same federal protections. The government reclaimed the property on my behalf, ensuring that no further development could happen without my consent. And since most of the residents were innocent buyers, The army worked with the state to relocate them to new housing developments built legally elsewhere. The corrupt developer went to prison, and the ho's president was fined heavily for participating in the fraudulent transactions. A month later, I stood on the ridge overlooking my land cleared once again. The Army Corps of Engineers had already started tearing down the illegal houses. By summer, my ranch was back to open fields and oak trees. But I didn't stop there. I decided to rebuild not just my ranch, but my community. With some of the settlement money and government restitution, I started a veterans rehabilitation farm on the land. We grow produce, raise livestock, and provide jobs and housing for returning service members adjusting to civilian life. The sign at the gate now reads, Freedom Ranch, a land of the brave, home of the returned. Last month, a few of the same people who once lived in those houses came back to visit. One of them, a young mother, told me she had no idea the land was stolen. She cried when she saw the restored barn. I told her she was welcome to volunteer at the ranch, and she did. Justice doesn't always come quickly, but when it does, it restores more than property, it restores faith. Every time I look out over the fields now, I remember what was taken and what was given back. My land isn't just dirt and fences, it's a symbol of every service member who's ever sacrificed everything for this country, only to come home and fight another kind of battle.